Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I'm going to chat with you guys a little bit about the one muscle that all the bros love to overcomplicate because it's their favorite muscle. But the truth is, from a programming perspective, a physiology perspective, it's just not that complicated, and it's the biceps. Now, this is a muscle I have always genetically struggled with. I've also tore a bicep over 20 years ago, so again, that's caused setbacks and everything else. Again, I'm not a bodybuilder, so it's not a huge concern, but I still train my biceps. And the most ironic thing is that people have noticed that my biceps have actually grown noticeably, in the last year or so. And the reality is my programming for them isn't that complicated. And it doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be, because here's the things that we need to keep in mind. All right, number one, the bicep is not complicated. It really only serves like one function with a secondary minor function of one head to, move the shoulder a little bit. Even the whole twisting of the wrist, supination and pronation of the wrist doesn't actually give a training response. That doesn't actually stimulate any growth, right? So it's extremely uncomplicated. Number two, it actually has a little bit lower of a volume tolerance than most of the muscles in the body do. When studies have looked at it, it's actually a little easier to overtrain than most other muscles, whereas in triceps in the upper body can handle higher volumes than the other muscles on average. So when you look at it from that perspective, you realize people simply overcomplicate it. So really, what should you do for biceps, particularly those of us who struggle with them? All right, those of us who struggle with them. Number one, just get strong at your back exercises, right? First of all. Now, will that always build good biceps? Well, for those of us who are not blessed with good bicep genetics, that actually won't build our biceps that well. They'll get some growth. They're not going to get anywhere near the amounts we want. Because even studies show that on average, they can give you about 70% of the hypertrophy that say, dumbbell curls do, when it's been studied head to head, right? But they do lay your foundation. They give you a lot of your strength, a lot of your other development. So, start your workouts with your back work. Always do it before bicep work. I honestly think things like arms really need to be put at the end of your upper body days. They definitely don't need their own day. They just don't have the volume needs for that. So beyond that, what should we do? Stop overcomplicating the training. You don't need 5 different types of curls. Maybe one good type of curl every week, right? One good type of curl. And here's what you're looking at. Range of motion. Does it put the bicep into the lengthened position, right? Do you lock the elbows all the way at the bottom, okay? If you achieve that and you take the muscle through an effective range of motion and you train it to fatigue, you're in a very good place. So notice even in this clip, because these are all kind of done over the course of a couple of weeks, you'll see me doing some heavy dumbbell rows, but then you see me doing 2 types of curls. There's no complexity needed. You don't need concentration curls. You don't need cables, any of those things. Studies don't show any of those things actually have any better stimulation. Some studies have shown less. A lot of the studies actually find that things like the easy curl, right? Curl with the easy bar, power curls, which a lot of people call cheat curls with a straight bar, all those things actually elicit really, really good activation. Again, as long as you do them through a full range of motion. So, what do you see me doing here? You see me doing some dumbbell curls. Notice I take my arms all the way down at the bottom. Get the stretch at the bottom. Okay? Get a stretch at the bottom. That lengthened position is where most of the growth happens. Contracted position at the top is actually less important. And this is when you look at what's going on in the lab. We look at what causes the muscle to grow. All right? That bottom portion is really the magic. Okay, if you load it effectively through that and you get a good, respectable range of motion, it's a good exercise. Again, this is not a complicated muscle. It is not a complicated muscle that has a bunch of different functions. It just doesn't. Again, it can affect the extension of your shoulder just a tiny amount, but it may not even be enough to really stimulate real growth. It is the movement of the elbow. So what you're looking at is, are you taking the elbow joint itself through a long range of motion, right? If you're doing that through a full range of motion and there's any load at all at the bottom as it's lowering, it's a good exercise, right? It's a good bicep exercise. All right, what else are you looking for? Fatigue. Are you close to muscle failure? Are you really close to muscle failure? Or in some cases, did you reach failure? And I always tell guys, for most training, we really shouldn't be training to failure. But here's the thing. I think curls are a little different, and here's why. You're not going to overtrain on curls. Biceps are the smallest major muscle in the upper body. They have minimal effect on your nervous system, everything else. Other than tendon overuse, which can be a problem, right? Overworking the tendon too much, which means you're doing too much. You're cheating incorrectly. Things like that. You're making some major mistakes for that to happen. Other than tendon overuse, they're probably not going to overtrain. So you don't need to worry about a lot of these issues. The only downside is that you'll have some localized overtraining and they may grow slower. So that's part of it too, doing too much bicep work. Doing too much. 5 or 6 quality sets every week. Okay, that's where I actually noticed growth really actually start to happen at all. And again, I'm not saying I have great biceps. They're still, arguably my worst muscle. But I'm a power lifter. But still, I saw the best growth when I stepped back and said, let's only do 5 or 6 really high quality sets a week. Get strong at my rowing, row first, and then finish the biceps off after. With some quality sets that get a good pump, good fatigue, and follow the basic rules of progressive overload. Right? Over time, you want to get stronger at those movements, whether you're adding reps, whether you're adding weight, but you're doing it with the same form, right? And if you're just cheating more, that's obviously not quite the same thing. But there's something to be said for power curls and eccentric overloading too. But the main thing is just don't overcomplicate it. Work them through a full range of motion, get a few really good quality sets in because they don't have the best volume tolerance. Follow the basic rules of progressive overload. Don't overtrain them. Give them time to repair and grow. And keep in mind, it's kind of hard to grow arms if the rest of your body's not growing. So just get bigger and stronger. Do some quality curls. Make sure the sets are challenging. Most of these sets you're seeing here are actually to muscle failure, which again, if people say, no, that's not, then they don't know what muscle failure means. It means when you try to do a rep and it just doesn't really move from the bottom. You kind of squeeze it and it's like, oh, the weight just didn't move. Okay, that's it. It's not, do you rest 5 seconds, then try to cheat and swing it up one more time, right? And it's that simple, right? It's that simple for most guys out there. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.